Welcome to the Real Estate 401k Show. Here are your hosts, Ryan Gerdes, Mike Weinstein, and Justin Frederick, helping you build a legacy of wealth through real estate. Powered by the Real Estate 401k Group at West USA and the Frederick Team with Fairway Mortgage and MLS number 625918.
Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Ryan Gerdes. We promise you next week. We can't make any promises. We never know what Justin's up to.
Yeah. Well,
I was about to promise that Justin would be back next week.
Yeah, I don't know that I would promise that.
Yeah, I know. So let me.
He is damn reliable. I'm not going to say that he isn't, but you know.
I understand the temptation. Everything, we always ask our clients this question when we're working with them, when we're trying to remove emotion from the decision-making process. And the question we always ask is do you like money? And we're just going to go on record right now. If you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I don't really like money, don't text into the show. We're not going to get along. And we're not saying money is everything. But if you're in real estate, you got to have an affinity for money. And so with that, one of the questions that a lot of owners who are getting ready to sell their house, I understand the temptation of doing a for sale by owner. And in our industry, the cool kids at the water cooler, we call it FSBOs. Mm-hmm. But they're for sale by owners because I think for a lot of sellers, they can do the math. And they understand what, they may have talked to an agent, and the agent says this is how much in commissions it's going to cost you and so forth. And we're not going to get into industry standards and so forth because our broker might be listening or get into trouble. But people can do the math. And so I understand the temptation. I want to save money selling my house on my own. I don't want to pay realtor fees. I think, and that's another discussion. I think that just comes down to a misconception sometimes earned of what we do as real estate agents. There is a difference between what a lot of people do and what we do as real estate wealth managers, but I don't want to digress here. And so I understand the temptation. I want to have a discussion, Ryan, about the costs involved and the financial dangers, because just saving in commission fees does not mean, and most of the time in my experience, doesn't mean you're going to walk away with more money in your pocket. So I got this stat. This is from 2022 from Orchard. The median home price for a for sale by owner was $310,000. The median home price for a home that sold on the market with real estate agents representing them was $405,000. When you're taking a look at the median home price, a home selling with an agent on average, or as far as the median home price goes, sold for $95,000 more. That is higher than I thought.
I don't know how to respond in a way that's politically correct. And I know that you guys don't expect political correctness out of me, but usually dumb people make less money.
I love it.
And dumb people spend less money because they don't have it, right? And so it really is no wonder to me that in the market that is much, much lower, that they have this brilliant idea that they're going to go ahead and do it on their own. And so like to me, that's just kind of like the most obvious thing that jumps into my head. But I've never driven through a luxury neighborhood that had a for sale by owner sign out there. Have you?
I'm gonna go with no. I've never thought about that.
No, if they're $1 million plus or even 750, which I don't consider to be a luxury neighborhood,
used to be.
It used to be. I've never driven through one where they had a Home Depot for sale by owner sign out there, ever.
Yeah. Or a Home Depot with a for sale by owner sign in front of it.
And I've never seen one with a broker out there that touts discount brokers. I don't know if I'm slandering any specific real estate company out there that has that in their name, but if they're discount brokers and that's how they're marketing themselves, they're not in front of luxury homes either. So that disconnect, or that distance between ones that sell for sale by owner and ones that sell on the retail market with proper representation doesn't surprise me at all. There's, like you said, there's that temptation out there, but and we've said it before on here, price is only an issue in the absence of value. And those that have been through it, the ones that understand how this industry works, they see value in having a qualified, experienced person representing them when it comes to helping them buy or sell their real estate.
Well, I want to go through some of the other aspects of the selling process where I find that sellers are leaving money on the table. Obviously, the discrepancy between the $310,000 for sale by owners as opposed to agent-represented listings at $405 as far as median home prices, that has everything to do with negotiations, understanding value of your home, truly understanding its value, and understanding how to negotiate. But there's some other things that fall into it. And we're big preachers on, time is money. And where I think for a lot of for sale by owners really get into problems is they don't know how to qualify the buyers. So they get an offer that comes in. They get excited that the offer comes in. We go through a lengthy process before I even submit an offer to my seller. I have gone through a qualifying process to vet out this buyer and also vet out their agent as well. But you can waste a lot of time working with unqualified buyers, especially if you don't know how to qualify them, because they might take up 10, 15 days, might take up 20 days, or at the last moment, they all of a sudden their funding goes through, and if you'd taken the appropriate steps ahead of time, you would have known that was coming and you could have avoided it, because the longer it sits on the market, the more money you're wasting.
Yeah, I mean, so this guy overall, I consider him a dipshit, but he did say one thing smart, so I'm not going to say his name, but he did say people don't need us when everything goes right. They need us for the times that things go wrong. And so it's kind of like an insurance policy. You pay on it, and you pay on it, and you pay on it, and then you're like, what am I paying all this insurance money for? And then you get a slab leak, and then your house floods, and you're like, oh, that's why I'm paying my insurance.
And that has actually happened to us as agents representing sellers. Remember that one?
Yeah.
And they were
it's happening right now.
Well, not only that, but going back to, I don't want to say their names, but they were going to do a for sale by owner, and you went over there and just said, hey, listen, this is what happens. And, dude, it went bad 3 days prior to close of escrow. They're the seller, and their house flooded, and turned out to be a root intrusion in the piping underneath the driveway. Not only how much could that have cost them, but how much time would they have wasted trying to figure out how to remedy that? I remember that one.
Yeah, that one was a fun one. We're going through one right now where, I mean, we were a week away from closing.
I think 4 days.
4 days. And then we get a phone call from the neighbor, hey, there's water coming out the garage. Well, usually water doesn't come out of a garage, right? And get in there, and the entire place has been flooded. And so there's been a lot of high-level negotiations. There's been a lot of high-level just understanding the process, working with the bank, working with the insurance company, working with the seller, and then us as the buyer. Everyone needs to understand what the actual protocol is, because the second somebody, decides that they're going to go off book, or they're going to make an emotional decision, or they're going to make an uneducated decision, then it just ends up costing more time and more money.
All right. So if you're considering doing a for sale by owner, selling your house on your own, we obviously, this is America. You can make whatever decision you want. But if you would like to have a free strategy session and help you understand the nuances of selling your home and the benefits, and just have an open dialogue, all you got to do is text the word owner to 623-AZ-RECON. That's owner to 623-AZ-RECON. I think also where for sale by owners start losing money is they don't understand the purchase contract. And if you are not working with an Arizona licensed real estate agent who is a member of the National Association of Realtors, you don't have access to the real estate purchase contract that we have access to unless you get it from a place that you're not supposed to get it from. So oftentimes they find themselves either just using a contract from LegalZoom, or they use a contract that the buyer brings, or they find one online. But even if they got a hold of the Arizona Associated Realtor contracts, you've got to understand the contract. You have to understand what's in it. And you, most importantly, have to understand the timetables, the 10-day inspection period, what needs to happen, what type of disclosures, because this is where a lot of for sale by owners don't understand disclosures. And next thing you know, they sell the house, somebody moves in, and all of a sudden something pops up that the seller knew about or shouldn't have known about, and now you're in court. But that inspection period to me is everything, the negotiations. And if the buyer is savvy and understands it more than you understand it, you could get taken to the cleaners.
Sure, and I think that is an element. And but one thing that rings true both in practice and what we read is the number one reason why people do not like real estate agents is communication. And so we've seen all kinds of different surveys come through, and it was, some of them don't even remember the name of the person that helped them buy the home or sell their home, and it's within only a couple of years of them doing it, and it's because there's no impact, usually no little or no communication there. So I think that's an issue. But I think if you were to kind of plant that seed and really think about it, it's they want to do it for sale by owner. It's either because our first reasons, there's that disconnect from people with that have money and they understand the value of representation, et cetera. It's usually because they've been burned. They went and hired a real estate agent, and then they said, well, they showed up when it came time to sign the listing contract, and then they put a for sale sign out in front, and I know it hit the MLS, but then that was the last I heard of them.
Never heard from them.
And then finally an offer came along, and probably wasn't what I wanted, but to them the perception is, well, of course the offer didn't come in the way we wanted it to because you haven't done shit for it, right? I don't hear from you, so if I'm not hearing from you, then I got to bet that buyers and other people aren't hearing from you either. So it's no wonder that I'm not getting what I want out of this transaction. So I don't see much value in hiring a real estate agent, because all you are is just somebody who spent 90 hours in a class and then passed a stupid test. And so I think that's another. I think that's probably a bigger problem in the real estate community as to why people are putting their homes on for sale by owner.
Yeah, and going back to the inspection process, so I'm a for sale by owner. I've never held a real estate license, so I don't understand the nuances of it. Now all of a sudden we're in escrow, and we're going through the 10-day inspection period, and the buyer submits a long list of things that they would like you to do. I would say a lot of for sale by owners, a lot of people don't know what their options are, and just say, oh, okay, I think they think that I've got to fix everything. And next thing you know, they've committed to fixing everything, and they left a lot of money on the table. Or if they are going to have to fix things, who's going to fix those things? Mm-hmm. Who's going to get that stuff done in a timely manner? Because time is everything.
For sure. And then, every now and then I run into these sellers. They get the inspection report, and they're just like, I'm just going to fix everything, and that'll take care of all the problems. And I'm like, don't do that. And then the next day they're like, well, I got this, and that done. And I'm like, well, that was nowhere on any of their requests. And then I see the other side where they're making legitimate concerns, like, hey, AC is either shot or on its last leg. we need some compensation for that because we have a $7,000-8,000 bill in front of us in order to take care of that. And they say, nope, it worked fine last summer, so why should I mess with it now? And you're like, hey, guy, like, understand that, this home still needs to function.
It was what, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, man. It's just, the war stories, right?
Dude, this is one of the craziest things that I've had happen, and it happened in January. So, and for just to educate our listeners, so we've talked about the 10-day inspection period, and when we represent you as a buyer, we get the inspection, and we're going to submit a list of things that we want the seller to address for us. We use a form we call it a BINSR, right? And so we did that, and then we are required to, per the purchase contract, we are required to send the seller or send the listing agent the inspection report as well. So we send over the inspection report, and the inspection reports are very, very long, right? They're 30, 40 pages. And we send over the BINSR. We probably asked for about 12 to 14 things, right? It took 3 days for the seller to respond back to our requests. And what he did is he completely ignored our request. On the response, he itemized every single item that the inspector called out on the inspection report.
I remember that.
Justifying, making his case, in some respects, fixing things and spending money on things we never even asked for.
It's all, hey, cool story, bro. Can we get back to the issue at hand? Like,
I looked at this thing. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this?
The price of tea in China, like what? Yeah, it's funny how we talk about emotion and like when people say things or but then what they're actually doing doesn't reflect any. Did any of this information actually infiltrate your brain at all? That's what you need out of somebody who's going to represent you, is to say, bring it back. Here's what it says. Let's interpret what is actually here on the contract, because contracts, I love them. They explain the rules of the entire relationship. Right? And like, hey, you need to do this while I do this, and here's the give, here's the take, right? And if everyone just plays by the rules, then we're going to end up hunky-dory. But we get inside of our own heads so often, and we get emotional about things. It's just money.
It's just best way I can illustrate it. It might be a little cheesy, might be a little bit overused. But God forbid if I should ever wake up one day and I have been charged with a serious crime. And that would be a surprise to me because I don't think I've done anything. But let's just say I was falsely accused of a very serious crime, looking at 10, 15 years, 20 years in prison possibly. The first thing that we do is we hire an attorney. Yeah. And we hire a good attorney because there is a lot on the line. That's why we have the Miranda rights. It's the first thing that people get, they get explained their rights is representation because it's so important. But there are bad attorneys out there, attorneys that don't know what they're doing. It can jeopardize your case as opposed to, you know what? If I'm facing 15, 20 years in prison, I'm spending the money to make sure I get the best representation possible. And I think there is no difference when it comes down to real estate. Because for people who are doing for sale by owner, they would never walk into court without an attorney. And if you did, back to what you said earlier, you're dumb.
Right. And me, you and I, we've both been through hundreds, if not thousands of different transactions. And if there's a transaction going down that we're not 100% on, then we're hiring a real estate professional, namely in other markets. So if it's in my own backyard and it's something that we've totally within our lane, then I'm representing myself. But if I'm property in Alaska, property in California. We hire a real estate agent to go over there and properly represent
right.
us. Like,
Yeah, we do. We're real estate. Of course we do. Because
Yeah.
I mean, when we bought that house in California, you bought the one in Alaska, I got my hands on the California contract, and I feel like I know contracts. And I know the Arizona real estate purchase contract.
sure.
I got a hold of this one going, we need help.
Yeah, yeah.
We need serious help.
So I'm drinking the Kool-Aid that I'm selling.
Yeah.
Like you've got to make sure that you're getting that good representation in front of you. It's going to cost you thousands, tens, or maybe even hundreds of thousands. It's a no-brainer.
It's why I don't ever go to all-you-can-eat buffets with my wife. The thought and the pain that it puts me through for people leaving food on the table. She's a one-tripper. Like, she goes to the buffet line, sits down, eats, and then that is it. I'm like, we spent $75.
I always appreciate how you bring this back to.
But I'm like, don't leave food on the table. Well, we don't want you to leave money on the table, because money is definitely more important, and we want to encourage it. We want to have a conversation with you. Do not fall into the trappings and the temptations of doing a for sale by owner without at least having a conversation with our team. All you got to do is text the word OWN to 623-AZ-RECON. That's OWN to 623-AZ-RECON.
Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate 401k Show. If you want more information on how to build wealth, click on the link or text us at 623-297-3266. That's 623-AZ-RECON.